Hey everyone, welcome back. And today we're going to be covering some stimulus bill update news. I'm going to give you the latest developments and tell you exactly what you need to know. Here's what we're going to be covering: the latest updates on the second round of $1,200 stimulus checks, unemployment insurance expansion, or maybe the lack thereof, changes to the Paycheck Protection Program, and the stimulus bill debit card. You're not going to want to miss it, so stick around and check it out. Be sure to comment below with any questions you have and let me know your thoughts on the latest stimulus bill news here. My name is Kevin Conway. I make personal finance videos and stimulus bill update videos all the time, so be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay informed on the latest developments, and give a quick like to this video. I'd really appreciate if you did so. Now let's get right into it. So here's the latest news on the latest round of stimulus checks. Just a short while ago, the House of Representatives passed the HEREOS Act, which, among other things, provided $1,200 of additional stimulus checks to Americans. This $1,200 stimulus check largely followed along the same lines as the CARES Act stimulus check, but it actually made it a little bit easier to qualify for, especially for those who are considered dependents on somebody else's tax return. If you want to know more about that and its details, check out my previous video and I break it down there. So that's all well and good, but that really is just a proposal that passed one chamber of Congress, and it needs to pass the Senate and then be signed into law by the president in order to be law. So where are we right now? Essentially, we are actually a little further along than I think a lot of people expected. The president has explicitly said that he wants to see direct stimulus payments to individuals, and the Treasury Secretary has said the same thing. An administrative official for President Trump has also said that the president is in favor of direct cash payments to individuals. And because the House of Representatives has already passed a bill which includes the stimulus checks for individuals, that leaves one body of government left to pass this bill, and that is, of course, the Senate. So what has the Senate said about the direct payments to individuals? Well, not so good of news. Although the Senate did pass the CARES Act, which had $1,200 stimulus checks in it, they are a lot more reticent to pass the bill now. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said that he is not in favor of direct stimulus checks to individuals, at least right now. He wants to take a pause on it. And the Senate is certainly taking a pause. They're not even in session right now and won't be until June 1st. But with that being said, I think there is a lot of momentum building. In fact, the business community has actually come out and said that they really like the stimulus checks because, no surprise, they benefited from the stimulus checks from their customers. For example, Walmart, Wendy's, and Lowe's have all explicitly said the stimulus checks helped them increase their sales more than they thought they would have otherwise. So you have the president, you have the House, and you have the business community all saying the same thing. Stimulus checks actually helped get the economy going a little bit more. And the Senate, at least half of them, or a little less than half, are directly in favor of the stimulus checks. So all it'll take is just a few senators to change their mind, and all of a sudden we're going to see another round of stimulus checks. And like I said previously, this is an election year, so politicians know that, and they know that people are certainly in favor of having a little bit more cash. So I would expect some developments to happen. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you stay informed, and I'll bring it to you as soon as it happens. But it's not all good. Of course, the economy is still in a very tough position, which brings us to point number 2, unemployment insurance. So what's the latest development with unemployment insurance? For those who don't recall, unemployment insurance was greatly expanded in the CARES Act. Now, if you're an independent contractor, self-employed, or really anyone who has a job, even part-time or a side hustle, you can be entitled to unemployment insurance. And better yet, this unemployment insurance is not like unemployment insurance in the past. Now, you not only get your state benefit, which can be around $200 to $400 in most states, but you also get an additional $600 of pandemic unemployment insurance. So you could be taking home around $1,000 per week if you are unemployed. Now, all of that was really helpful for people who lost their job, but when does it end? It doesn't go on forever. In the CARES Act, the unemployment insurance of $600 per week, the pandemic unemployment insurance, is scheduled to end on July 31st. That is in about 2 months. So it doesn't matter if you just got unemployment insurance right now. No matter what, but it is ending on the $600 per week basis in July of this year. But the state benefit for those individuals who normally wouldn't qualify for unemployment insurance, like those independent contractors, is not scheduled to end until December 31st of this year. But that still leaves a big question mark. What happens to that $600? Is it going to be expanded or is it not going to be expanded? As of right now, the House of Representatives bill that passed, the HEREOS Act, includes an expansion of the unemployment insurance until next year. But the Senate has explicitly said they do not want to see an expansion of unemployment insurance past July 31st of this year. And while these stimulus checks may be particularly popular, the unemployment insurance is particularly partisan. Democrats, on the one hand, think that people need that additional unemployment insurance right now because they are suffering. The economy is in a very tough position, and to take that away in July when the economy is still suffering would be to take away money that people really need in their hands now. On the other hand, Republicans think that the economy will be much slower to recover if they don't take away those especially generous benefits, because it'll be harder for employers to hire back the employees that they need and therefore be able to get those employees back to work and get the economy going again. This is a fundamental disagreement between the two parties, and it's going to be very difficult to resolve in a timely fashion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And here's an interesting statistic that I was reading the other day. Around 40% of all Americans who are unemployed are actually going to be making more on unemployment insurance with that CARES Act expansion than they would working. The idea behind that $600 per week actually came from the fact that the average worker makes around $970 per week in regular wages. That same worker, if they were unemployed, would receive around $370 in unemployment insurance from their states. And so when they made the CARES Act, they said $370, $970, $600, that's your average worker. We need to fill in that gap so they can get 100% wage replacement. But of course, some workers make less than that amount, and therefore they make more on unemployment insurance because that $600 is not reduced depending on what job you had. You just get that if you lost your job for a reason covered in the CARES Act. This is a very tough situation, as you can tell, because it goes to the fundamental difference between the two major parties in government right now. And the vast majority of the people on unemployment insurance today are on it not because of any fault of their own, but because of the fault of something totally out of their control, a worldwide pandemic. So we're going to have to see what occurs in the law and what develops, so be sure to stay tuned and I'll bring you the latest developments. I personally think that we could see some form of compromise on those unemployment insurance benefits. I think they will be expanded, but perhaps they will be expanded and pared down to a degree. You want to know more about unemployment insurance, how to apply, how you qualify, and everything else? Look at my previous videos and I go into detail there. So with that being said, that brings us to the Paycheck Protection Program and how businesses are dealing with this economic disaster we're in. Quick recap, the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, is a loan that you can get from the Small Business Administration through a bank, and that loan is able to be 100% forgiven if it is spent on certain things, including, most importantly, payroll, and then also rent and utilities. You must spend those funds within 8 weeks after receiving that PPP program loan, and you must spend at least 75% of that amount on payroll in order to get it discharged. But as I discussed previously, a lot of businesses are having trouble hiring back those workers that they had to let go in the past. And as a result, the Treasury and the government have implemented and are thinking about implementing additional relaxations of the rules of the PPP to help out those businesses. For example, one of the things that is being discussed now, and I think will pass, is the fact that the government may remove that 8-week time period and give businesses all the way until the end of this year to spend the PPP money in order to get it discharged. As of right now, that isn't the law, but I think it probably will be, especially because Congress passed the CARES Act, which simply said that they can get PPP loans into the hands of businesses, and the Small Business Administration is the group that actually put together the regulations on exactly how those funds can be spent. For example, the SBA was the one that actually implemented the rule that you must spend 75% of your PPP loan on payroll in order for it to be discharged. But some businesses have really high rent costs, especially in those cities like New York, and they aren't able to spend as much of their PPP money on a percentage basis on payroll in order to get the full amount discharged. They need a lot more of that to be spent on rent in order for it to be discharged. That is another rule that is up for debate and probably going to be knocked down in the coming weeks in order to make it a little bit easier for businesses to operate. Now, moving on to the very last thing that is pretty interesting, which just came out, is the fact that the Treasury is going to be directly mailing debit cards to individuals who qualify for a stimulus check under the HEREOS Act, but haven't actually set up a bank anywhere and therefore don't have any banking information. It is expected around 4 million people will receive a debit card directly from the government, which allows you to actually go out and spend that money at a place which accepts a Visa debit card. You can go withdraw the cash from an ATM and you can use it just like you would with normal money. And this is for people who don't have a bank account set up. This is largely because the stimulus checks were actually direct deposited into the bank accounts of people. And if you didn't have a bank account, you weren't receiving that direct deposit unless you had it mailed to you. The goal of the debit card is just to get the cash in the hands of people as quickly as possible. So there you have it. Those are the major developments in the stimulus bill news today. If you want to know anything else, be sure to check out my previous videos and subscribe to this channel to stay informed, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts on the newest developments in the stimulus bill. My name is Kevin Conway. Be sure to give the video a like, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.